creating Titanfall 3 myself because I am tired of waiting. You and me and just like all of the other FPS community dudes. Too true.
Titanfall 2. It is a game loved by most, hated by some,
Yep.
and copied by many.
Oh yeah, Apex. Ew.
Unfortunately, it has also developed severe social anxiety and a need for gratification as a product of its rough childhood. From Titanfall 3 not happening, to hackers,
Yep.
to having to be published by EA, it suffered a lot. Thankfully, the developers are doing everything in their might to resolve the server issues. So in an attempt to cope with my feelings of abandonment, I have decided to take it upon myself, and some other people, but mostly myself, to create a Titanfall game.
Oh my god.
A Titanfall 3.
Oh man.
The goal being to create a game that exists and respects the original, while also improving upon it in the ways I think are best. But first we have to understand what Titanfall is. Well, you see, it's a simple game. You have your car, your wall run, and your Titan. And
you have your car and you have movement. And that's all you need. And that's the story of Titanfall. Oh, that's the truest of truths.
then you let go of your 21st century civilized behavior and throw yourself into a dopamine-induced killing spree, fueled by your animalistic instincts. So pretty much like most FPS. The main problem with Titanfall is that you have this interesting movement system, and then you have hit-scan laser weapons that does not care about that. To solve this issue, we turn all of the bullets into slower-moving physical projectiles, effectively turning every pilot encounter into a 10-minute dogfight, and still maintaining all of the same levels of player control.
Yeah, the whole debate with hit-scan bullets versus projectiles, it's never gonna cease to end, you know? You just have projectiles that just move really quick, but you still have to aim a little bit, like lead your target or whatever, or are you just gonna have all your bullets just be hit scan and just wherever your cursor is, that's where the bullet goes instantly in one frame?
Otherwise, I wanted it to feel mostly like the Titanfall you know and love, but there's also a few surprises.
Movement.
Titanfall is a game about movement.
Yep.
In fact, the movement is so prominent that the average pilots trade in their human legs for metal pistons.
The best.
In order to achieve maximum athleticness. Hence why the first thing on my Titanfall checklist was creating a movement system. But Titanfall is known for inventing wall running, and subsequently the entirety of the modern FPS genre.
Well, that's because Titanfall 1 and 2 originally was made by the same dudes that made, what was it, Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 Call of Duty? But like the back in the day one, like the 2000s one, not the current year ones.
Genre. So how can I possibly top that? Well, we add a flip. And also I used a character controller, which is a tool in Unity used for moving characters, and hardcode my own physics movement, because the built-in physics wasn't good enough for my high standards. This means that instead of moving the character by applying a force, we can tell the script to just move it X units forward in vector 3 direction. Then, to create momentum-based movement like in Titanfall, we just create a global speed variable and increase or decrease the speed based on boosts or friction. This means that bunny hopping, slide hopping, and wall kicking pretty much creates itself.
Oh dang.
For maximum speed, you want to fly a lot and not touch the ground ever.
True. You could actually just still do this in like regular Titanfall 2. It's entirely possible to just play a whole match and just never touch the ground at all.
Using the movement system, you can actually go really fast. So fast that I had to clamp the maximum speed to the speed of light. Just like it works in real life. We of course also need a grappling hook. The only problem was that, since I'm not simulating physics, I had to actually perform the mathematical calculations for the swing by myself.
Oh, dang.
Now, thankfully, I found
Just a little bit of napkin math. It should be simple.
this good article describing every step of the process. And so now I'm going to describe it back to you.
Oh boy.
The player first fires a line and hits an object. If the object exists, then an imaginary bubble will be created around it. And if the character keeps grappling, it will not be allowed to leave this confined sphere, thus creating a swing effect. And for a more responsive grapple, you can add a bit of acceleration and reduce the gravity. It just works. On the spirit of me thinking I know what is best for Titanfall, I decided the game would benefit from players being able to see other players through walls.
Oh.
So, infinite wall hacks for everyone.
You get a wall hack. You get a wall hack. Everybody gets a wall hack.
But
see, that's the big brain tactic behind cheats and stuff. You don't need to have like an anti-cheat system if your game already has cheats in them. All right, you're playing 4D chess right there.
You can turn it off if you don't want it. I created this effect by duplicating the character, removing everything except the skeleton, and adding a special see-through object material to it. The logic behind this is that you can't cheat if cheating is built into the design of the game.
There you go.
In Titanfall, not only do you have to run, but you also have to shoot. Which is why for my next ego trip, I have decided to make some alterations to the gunplay. What alterations exactly? Well, I have replaced all of the hit scan weapons with their projectile counterparts.
Yep.
You might say
So now you can never hit any enemy at all ever.
that the projectile weapons in Titanfall 2 are less than ideal.
Yeah, the slow-moving projectile weapons are complete ass.
Except for the L-Star, of course.
Yeah.
But by simply lowering the time to kill, they already feel more powerful. The point of this is to lean away from the heavy aim requirements a lot of FPS have nowadays. You see, in my game, you are given lots of different weapons and mechanics, and then you're supposed to outsmart your enemies instead of outskilling them. That is why you have things like wall hacks to minimize the possibility of you being shot in the back. Anyway, the only problem I encountered with the projectile system was that creating projectiles in multiplayer is difficult. At least for me. I had a problem where bullets fired when moving too fast could hit the player firing them.
What?
But the game sets the playing player to, well, player, and all other intruding players to enemy, and you can't damage the current playing player, so I cannot understand why this was happening. What I failed to understand was that multiplayer is not one game that everyone participates in. Multiplayer is several different clones of the same game, being updated at the same time to simulate people interacting with each other. Turns out, in everyone else's game, you were not the player, you were the enemy. So when the bullets that you fired hit the you in their game, you took damage. The effect was, of course, also amplified by the number of other players, since every player sent the damage back to you. I solved this problem by only firing a short raycast in front of the bullet in the parent game. This means that the damage was only applied in your instance of the game, where you are the player, meaning that you can't damage yourself. And as for the weapons themselves, I decided to make my life easier and create a template system, where you can just quickly assign different attributes and values to make a weapon. With values like homing rounds, gravity pull, and ricochet as assignable values, there is no way you can go wrong.
Absolutely no way.
By clicking semi-automatic, turning up the bounciness to 100%, turning down the reload speed, and increasing max collisions, we have made the ricochet bolt-action sniper rifle.
Oh my god.
But when it comes to choice of weapons, the Titanfall fanbase is very biased. Anything that cannot be fired while flying in the air, with perfect laser recoil, is useless.
True.
To counteract this issue, all of the weapons are now SMGs. By this, I mean that everything can be fired from the hip while running with limited recoil. And in enabling freedom with movement, the common FPS player behavior of putting down your tent and starting a campfire on any promising vantage point is also prevented. The problem with the bullets being so slow is that when you're traveling at Mach 7 like you do most of the game, you can almost outrun them. Hence why we add your current velocity to the bullets on top of their firing velocity.
Oh dang! Did you want velocity with your velocity? Well, we put velocity with your velocity.
This automatically intervenes with the basic instinct every Titanfall player has that makes them think no one will notice them if they hide in the giant tower in the middle of the map.
True.
Because now you can't just stand still and snipe fast-moving targets. You have to actually run alongside them and match your speed to theirs in order to counter them. No more amped wall campers.
Bro, like, the time I did play Titanfall multiplayer, I seldom came across anybody standing still in that game. Yeah, they were there, kinda, but nowhere near, like, it would be like 1 in 100 people would be actually standing still and using that shit.
And as for the other weapons, we of course have your usual rifles and pistols. The game simply spawns in a projectile in front of the weapon muzzle and then applies a force to make it fly away. And by merely adjusting the force and the gravity on the bullets, we can make lots of different weapon variants. We have the smart shotgun.
Oh, what is oh my god!
Its projectiles have an extended lifespan, and there is no way to destroy them.
That's so funny. That's a really unique game mechanic. Like, you have these like little, it's like a super needler from Halo. Cause remember how like the needler kills, like, as long as you're like, you don't have any cover and you like, the needler doesn't care if you strafe. As long as like when the needle fired, it was red, it won't home onto you unless you have like some sort of cover. And even sometimes if you weren't far enough behind cover, like, they would still hit you.
Causing you to constantly worry about how you can extend your own lifespan. We also have the gravity switcher gun.
What?
It's completely harmless to your flesh, but will most likely harm your soul.
Bro, that's like the BFG.
The Titans can of course be destroyed, so we need anti-Titan weapons. This is where the triple rocket launcher come in. I created a spinning animation and timed it to the fire rate. Then I just amped up the spread and set the projectiles to explode in my template. The result is a very inaccurate but satisfying weapon. What is Titanfall without Titans?
Yeah.
Fall. Which is why we add Titans. The Titans work as a separate character with its own camera and movement code.
Ooh.
When you enter the Titan, an embark animation is played and the embark camera attached to the Titan is activated. When your player gets into the Titan seat, the Titan camera is activated and the embark camera switched off. You can now dash back and forth and fire the Titan weapons. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
What was not pretty simple was the problems I encountered when creating the Titans. You know, making this project, I've gotten much more respect for modern video game developers. Maybe next time they release something, we should just accept it.
No. Never accept it. Stop eating shit.
While the Titan weapons themselves can get pretty stale after a while, their heavy chassis can be used for alternate methods of life removal. Simply walking over your enemies is an effective tactic. And don't even get me started on the air-to-surface missile built-in functionality.
Yeah?
This was created simply by placing an instant death collider on the Titan's feet, and another one just below it for the falling version. Now, if you touch it, you are no more. Aside from that, they make this pretty cool sound when dropping, And you can also eject from them, in which case the ragdoll mechanics are pretty great.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Finally, we have come to the map. I found the UMA map files somewhere on the internet and exported them into Unity.
Oh.
Then I just added some placeholder textures, painted on some grass, and covered it up with fog.
Nice. Uh-uh.
Now you might think the game is missing some things, like Polish, servers, a campaign, an actual game mode.
Nah.
But none of that matters, because the game is released on Steam for the absolute bargain price of $70. There is live service, but we plan on fixing the game-breaking glitches, only through 5 different DLCs that you get as 1% random drops in $30
gotta have the
loot boxes.
Gotta have the loot boxes.
Some form of game could potentially be finished in the future, but it's gonna take some time, so don't get your hopes up yet. If you think there is something a Titanfall game should have, then type it in the comments and I will try to forget about it. Anyway, every new subscriber is one less 2 hours, 12 minutes and 7 seconds of time before the game releases. So what are you waiting for?
Oh man. That was so good. That was so funny. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, yep, I'm still in the Titanfall 3 waiting room too, dude. It's just, it is what it is. Maybe it'll get made, maybe it won't. Who knows? This video has convinced me that I don't want Titanfall 3. What I want instead are a dozen devlog videos of it where nothing seems to actually improve. Then, when you're finally set to release it, you disappear for a few years without explanation, come back, and refuse to acknowledge any of what happened. True. Because I think he's referencing what happened with Titanfall like 2 to 3. Or maybe they did announce 3, but then they went silent and then didn't say anything for a while. So that's kind of what he's saying. Oh man, bro, this was funny. This was too funny. I love this. Oh man, this was good. All right, that's about it. Later.